Hello and welcome to the Tank Club. Today I'm going to be showing you my beginner tank build for Albion Online, and this is a little build I've been using to try and learn and progress my way through the content in this really fun and fairly easy, in my opinion, MMO game that is growing in popularity at the minute. There's lots and lots of players, it's very active, and I'm going to show you my quick build that you can put together. Now this build is designed for new players, for beginner players. It's fairly low cost if you're going to buy it. If you're going to craft it, it's a little bit more difficult, but it can be crafted reasonably easy. So let's jump straight into it. So in this game there are no classes. Everything is based around your gear, and so we have to do some things here, especially early days, to make your character really strong so you can survive through the different content, especially those group dungeons and expeditions and the things that you're going to be going into. But you do want to be progressing your gear as you're going through as well to stronger stuff. But to start off with, you want to be getting a soldier helmet. And the reason why we use this, we get some really nice benefits from using all plate armor. So we use the block skill here, and so we can block incoming attacks, because obviously in this game you don't physically block. The only way to block in this game is by using a skill to block. So we use that along with the toughness passive to increase our defense. We've then got some guardian armor, and for this one there's two different options. So we go with enfeebling aura, and this will, as it says here, it creates an aura, a 7-meter radius around your character, decreases all damage that the enemies deal by 60%, it slows them down, and that's really strong. Now there are some enemies where you want to be using this instead, which is taunt. You don't need to use taunt because the threat generation in this game is fairly simple, but if you do want a physical taunt, then it can be good to use this. There are certain bosses where you might need to use an actual taunt. In terms of the passives, we go with the toughness again to boost our defense, and we go with protective instinct, which increases your threat generation by 300%. And this is why I said you don't need to use the taunt, because you can gain aggro of enemies via the threat, because you've got these threat generation benefits, and there's other skills as well that you're going to be using that generate threats. So you don't need to use taunt, but it's something that is an option, especially when you're getting onto boss encounters. Next we've got the guardian boots, and that is for the giant, and you grow into a giant, increasing your max and current health by 100% and your movement speed by 25%. This just makes you really strong. So when you're going into content, maybe you're pulling a big stack of adds and you're taking a lot of damage, you buff yourself up by going into giant. And then we've got the toughness passive again for a more increased defense. For the cape, we go with the Martlock cape, and this is just a bit of a safety barrier, so it's going to protect yourself with a shield, increasing your defense by 50% for 5 seconds. Now it's on quite a long cooldown, over a 3-minute cooldown, but it's more of a defensive thing, an emergency thing, so it activates when your health drops below 25%, so it'll come into effect at those really important moments where you might be low on health. So it could save your life and prevent bad things from happening. We've also got the sarcophagus, and this is your offhand for your shield. The reason we use this, obviously 14% threat generation, and it's got some nice defensive bonuses. And then finally we've got the incubus mace, which is just really strong for tanking. So we've got, first of all, threatening smash. This increases your threat towards enemies by 100. So this is one of the good ways to start generating your threat, when you combine that with the increased percentage of threat generation that you've got on your armor and things like that. This is enough usually to keep aggro of enemies, and it hits in an AoE cone, so it hits more than one target, so you can hit a whole stack of enemies as you kind of use this, which is really good. Next we use air compressor. You will need to get your mace to level 40 to be able to use this skill, so it does take a little bit of effort to get there, but it's a really good skill. In the meantime, you can just use ground shaker to cause an interrupt, which is really nice, but air compressor is just so strong. So it creates a vacuum in a 7-meter radius around you, pulling enemies towards you, increasing threat towards all mobs hit as well. So it's threat and it's for stacking enemies. We also get shrinking curse, so shrinks all enemies in a cone in front of you, decreasing their max health, current health by 25%, and their damage dealt and healing cast by 40%. So they reduce the damage they do and reduces their max health, so they get killed faster. And then I really like to go with energetic, so that every time we do a normal attack we restore 4 energy, because you're going to be burning through a lot of energy as you go in through content by using a lot of these skills. In terms of the food, you want to go with the omelettes, and that is because you're going to get a really nice benefit to increase your cast speed and cooldown rate by 5%. Now obviously the stronger the food you use, the better the benefit. So if you increase your food to a higher strength, so we've got pork omelette there, increases your cast speed and cooldown rate by 13.5%, so quite a big leap. So it's good to be using the strongest food that you're able to buy. Obviously for starters though, the chicken omelette works fine. And then for your potions, a couple of different options. So you've got healing potions. You can use these to gain 14% of your max health over 9 seconds. Obviously, again, the stronger potion you use, the more health you'll get. Another good option is to use energy potions. And this is going to give you, it's going to restore a good chunk of your max energy, which can be really helpful. Sometimes that'll save you more than a healing potion, because the healing potions don't heal you that much. Whereas by getting your energy potion and getting your energy back, you might be able to cast a skill such as Giant, for example, which would give you a nice big burst to try and keep you alive. So there's a few different options there. In terms of the gear, you can kind of, as you progress this, you can start to use other things. So we're using all plate armor because it has the best defensive benefits. Now as you progress, you might want to use cloth or leather, especially for like on the head. You might want to use the stalker hood. That is another good replacement. If you didn't want to use the soldier helmet, you wanted to move on to something that gives you some different benefits, you've got the option of the stalker hood. In terms of the foot slot, you could use the cultist sandals. That again will give you additional benefits if you are not needing as much defense because you're starting to progress and understand how to do content a little bit better. For the offhand, you could also switch to Mistcaller, which reduces your cooldowns. So this one is the more defensive benefit. This gives you the defensive benefits. The Mistcaller is going to be a completely different benefit. You're not going to have as much defense, but you are going to have reduced cooldown. So that is another really strong option. And then for your cape, again, we've gone with the safety and defense. You might not need this because you might be able to move away from the safety and defense. You could use the Limhurst cape, which helps with your energy sustain, or you could use the Bridgewatch cape, which provides an enemy debuff. So these are really strong alternatives if you don't need the defensive benefit of the Martlock cape. Also, you might want to progress your potion as well. So another good option for potion is the poison potion, which applies damage to the enemy but reduces their resistances. So there's like a lot of different ways you can progress this build. For myself, I have upgraded my build to use stronger gear, but the same gear, because I do really like the defensive benefits of this. But as we get into this later game content, as you start running with stronger groups who are more knowledgeable of how to play the game, it's a good idea to start moving away from full plate, start increasing your utility with a bit of cloth in there and a bit of leather as well, like I said. So when we look at how you actually play this build, so the way that you have to function with these skills, so as you can see here, we've got the skills at the bottom. You want to go into fights using Threatening Smash. So you walk into an ad pull, you use Threatening Smash, that will gain aggro of the enemies. It's also great if other people don't attack the enemies as you're stacking them. So usually you will pull 2, maybe 3 stacks of enemies together into a stack so your group can kill it all in one go. And it also helps with the cooldowns because some of your skills have got quite long cooldowns, and so if you use all your cooldowns on one ad or a couple of different ads and you haven't stacked multiple together, you're not going to have the debuffs available for every ad pull. So it's a good idea to go and pull in the first set of enemies, you use your Threatening Smash, you go to the next set of enemies, you use Threatening Smash again because it should be off cooldown, and then maybe even a third pull of enemies if they won't all run off again. If you can stack them all together, you can use the Threatening Smash a third time, and then that gets them all aggroed to you, so you have threat enabled on those enemies. Then the idea is that you circle around. That is how you stack enemies. You run in a circle to bring them into a pile. You then use air compressor. So when they're close enough, the 7-meter radius, use air compressor, that pulls everything in, and it increases the threat as well. So if anything was about to run off and start damaging your enemies, start damaging your teammates, they're going to come back in because you've got this threat generation. Then you need to turn around and face the enemies. So once you've aggroed everything, stacked it up, you've pulled it with air compressor, you turn around and you face it, and you hit your shrinking cast. Now, this will then do the cone in front. It will decrease the max health of the enemies. So your group now have to do less damage because the enemies have already lost 25% of their max health. So they then get killed much faster, and also you're reducing the damage that they're dealing to you. You can also go into these ad pulls using Enfeebling Aura, or you can wait till they're all stacked up and everything's hitting you in one pile. That can be quite high damage, so then you activate your Enfeebling Aura to reduce the damage that they're doing, and it slows them down as well, so they stay kind of stacked up, so it's good to use that. And then your emergency skills are block and giant. So while you are stacking those adds, you might have to use block while you're doing the stack because you might be taking too much damage. Maybe your healer isn't healing you enough. And also for your emergency button, you've got giant, which will give you that big burst of health. It increases your current health. And it's increasing your movement speed as well, so you can move and stack those enemies faster. When it comes to boss fights, obviously, it's a little bit different. You haven't got to do the stacking, but you do still want to be using Threatening Smash because it's doing regular damage and it's increasing your threat. Air Compressor isn't as useful against a boss, so you could switch that out, but it does increase your threat, so it's something you could still use, but it might be a good idea to switch that out. When it comes to a boss fight, Shrinking Curse works on bosses, so it's worth using that still. And then obviously, there are a lot of attacks that bosses do that shoot in multiple directions that can hit your group, so Enfeebling Aura is going to be really useful for reducing that damage. And then obviously for a boss, they are going to be doing quite a lot of regular damage to you, so your giant and block are going to be really, really valuable. Tanking in Albion Online isn't overly complicated compared to some MMO games. As you see there, that is all the skills, that is all the buttons you've got to press. It's just about the right timing. It's about learning how to functionally use them at the right moments. And obviously you need to be progressing your build. This build that we've said here is going to cost you about 50 to 80,000 silver. So not really that expensive. It doesn't take that long. You can easily get that in half an hour of farming materials and selling them on the market. So it's quite an easy one to put together. As you start to progress your build, you are going to want to upgrade your gear so that it's stronger. Alongside upgrading your skills on the Destiny board, it is a good idea to have them auto-learning so that you can progress all your skills as they get to the right level. This way, you're increasing your strength via your gear and your Destiny board. You need both things to increase your character's strength. And as you kind of get better, you start getting into the harder content. Tanking is really, really good to get into because, like I said, it's quite simple. There's loads and loads of groups in the chat looking for tanks, so it's really, really easy to find groups to do stuff with. And even if you're going into like PvP zones with your groups to try and get to that content, you have got the defensive benefits and the crowd control benefits of having some function if people do try to attack you. If you need any more information about Albion Online tanking, make sure you check out thetankclub.com. You can also join us on Discord. We do have an Albion Online channel on there for any tank discussions and information about Albion Online. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.